Hello, you're listening to 101 Part-Time Jobs, the podcast where I speak to bands about how they've survived and the jobs they've done. Why? I'm not sure, but sometimes we do get to hear some good stories. Today, we've got James Cox from Crows, whose new album, Beware Believers, is out on the 1st of April. Everything I've heard from it is raging, including the track beneath this called Garden of England. James runs a tattoo studio in Hackney Wick called Only Here For You, along with his Crows collaborator Elliott Lane. On Instagram, search _OHFY to see what they're up to. They've got a couple of events coming up. The next one is on 7th of May, where it's a flash day at the studio in the daytime. And then Power Plant are playing at the Shacklewell Arms that night. Cheers for listening to 101 Part-Time Jobs. This is James Cox of Crows.
Because we all met at uni, so we were all in London. That's where we all met. That's where we all started playing, doing like the toilet scene, like the Water Rats and King's Cross, and like Dublin Castle, and where else? Like Wheelbarrow, all those like Camden venues that just has someone who will never, the promoter who will never be at the gig, but will very gladly say, yeah, you have to sell 20 tickets and then you'll get like a tenner or something. Yeah, so we did that for fucking like a good like maybe a year, 2 years, straight out of uni. Absolutely no money. We were all living in a flat in Finchley Road. Well, I mean, at that point, I was just working in pubs. I think I was working in Euston, which is like, at the time, it was a yellow card pub. I don't know if you remember what yellow card pubs are, which are like Scream pubs. So there's just student pubs. And it would be like every Tuesday.
Yeah, I remember Scream.
Yeah. So it'd be Scream pub every Tuesday. And it was all like UCL students. And every Tuesday was pound a pint. So you'd get like a jug of lager a jug of snakebite was the thing. Everyone would get like jugs of snakebite for £4, and then the toilets would just be painted red with vomit. And I did that for ages.
Do you remember what your kind of impression of London was in that time? Because I mean, London is sort of one of those cities where, I mean, I've only lived in a few cities, but it's, even for me growing up in the suburbs, you can still feel totally tiny and lost and fucking grey and cold, no hope.
Yeah.
How did you sort of see London and see, your place in London at that time?
Yeah, that's interesting. Well, yeah, because I grew up in like rural, very small town, mid Wales, like a 2,000 population town in the middle of Wales, called Rhayader, which is beautiful and a lovely place to grow up. It rains a lot. But again, once I got to like 18, I was kind of just itching to go out, like play music. I wanted to go to uni and meet musicians in London. I was like, my main thing to going to uni for was to meet musicians. And I did that. And then I moved down, had a whirlwind time at uni, met the Crows boys. And then afterwards, that's when you're like, okay, I've got a student loan and I have to start paying my way a bit more. And London's just fucking expensive, full stop. But I think I was quite fortunate because we actually had like a really good group of friends who stayed after uni, who all wanted to like carry on like doing what they were doing. So although we were working all these shit jobs like to get by and like kind of start like a life as a normal human, we had a good group of us. So like we had that kind of like camaraderie of being like, all right, we can all go out and like get pissed and have like a fun time on the weekend, work all these shitty jobs because we have like an aim at the end of it, which is to either play music or work in film or work in promotions. So like, yeah, we had like a really cool group of friends that kind of was like our rocks at the time, and like I think that really helped. But yeah, definitely there's times where like, especially walking to work for like a 13-hour shift at serving students jugs of snakebite, you're a bit like, oh god, I've got to do this again. That's when it
I mean, that makes such a difference, right? The context of other people doing it.
Yeah.
I wonder if that's such like a human trait, if you're at school or if you're in that job, if someone else is going through it, it does just make it seem more bearable, doesn't it?
Yeah.
I mean, did that carry on for a few years?
Yeah, so I did pubs for a while, and then I got so sick of serving drunk people and like just being around drunk people in general. And I kind of always like beckoned towards the kitchen. So every time I like go to take the food out from the kitchen, I'd be like, man, these guys have got it. Like they just fucking They sit back here, they listen to their own music, like make some food. They always finish earlier. They get paid better. And I was like, I'm gonna go into the kitchen, man. Fuck this. I was like, I'm getting into the kitchen. And where was I at the time? So I can't remember what pub. I was working at that pub in Euston at the time, but the old drummer in Crows, Lawrence, was the manager at Wetherspoons, the White Swan in Highbury and Islington.
Is that one next to the station on the roundabout?
Yeah, that big one. And he was like, "We need kitchen staff," and I was like, "Come on, let me in. Like, get me in."
Yeah.
So he got me the job there, and that was that was an experience. That was a very interesting experience. Working in the kitchen in Wetherspoons, especially that one, was very, very testing. Just because it was constantly busy. It was like never quiet. The kitchen wasn't very big compared to the size of the pub. So I mean, everyone that worked there was great. And this is the best thing about working these jobs. It's like you always like create a family inside. Because you spend so many hours, some like unsociable hours with these people, you end up making great friends with all these people. So that kind of makes the job more bearable, even though the job's fucking awful. But yeah, slowly going to run a Wetherspoons kitchen is pretty strange because it's either deep fried, straight from the freezer into the microwave, or straight on the griddle. So yeah,
I'd say the sweet chili wrap is a favourite.
Yeah,
I've got to say.
Yeah, and again, probably one of the few things I'd actually eat off it. Don't worry. The breakfasts are fine with the breakfast. Yeah. It's the kind of like when you get inside the curries and like the ribs and stuff like that. Just avoid those.
You can't. Yeah, getting ribs. It's like the McRib. You know, it's not really right, is it?
Mate, I would come out. It was Fish Fridays. So it was like fucking £5 fish chips, like a beer as well. I would come out covered, like my whole forearms covered in grease burns. Like I would be covered. I've still probably got some scars from it, just like slapping in fish to the deep fat fryer, and it just like slapping up in my face, and like there was hot oil just burning my skin. And I'd walk out. I remember coming home like sat down the sofa like with roll spliff, and just like miserable, like oh, it's sad, fucking hate it, and then just go back and do it all again the next day.
I haven't been to a Spoons in a little bit because of the prick who runs it. But I have that sort of thing now that I see the carpet and I sort of feel a little bit nauseous.
I'm the same. I haven't gone in since Brexit, since the pandemic, because when he did like shitty stuff. But yeah, and the same. It's like even a few years after I worked there, I'd go to like look at the chips and be like, it's like so many of those chips I would just eat like straight out like the fryer. Because I was hungry on shift and I bored, and there's so many of them. I'm just like, I can't even like taste that like sodden potato in my mouth anymore. That would make me feel a bit sick.
Well, eating on the job, that's got to be a plus, even if it is gross. You're not spending money on that.
Well, this is a toss-up. This is the difference between working on a bar and working in the kitchen when you're bored. So when you're working on a bar and you're bored, you're just like, I'm just going to have a drink. It's going to go a lot quicker, and then the shift goes a lot quicker, and you end up drunk at the end of the shift, and then the cycle repeats, and that's a very dangerous slope to go down. But your kitchen, you're bored, you're like, I'm just going to eat. So I was like, yeah, you're then like grazing the whole shift, and like, yeah, I'm not sure which is worse for your health, but in either place, it's not good. I used to work at the Hawley Arms in Camden.
Yeah.
For like 2 years, and that was literally just a continuous lock-in. Every single night was lock-in. Every single shift we were drinking, and that was blurry. That's when I needed to get out of pubs and full stop. That's when I found all right, this is enough. I can't last. But at the Hawley, like we met our manager, we met like loads of other bands that we're now really good friends with. And we got on loads of tours that we probably wouldn't have got on had we not become friends with those bands. So there were definitely plus sides out of like all the terrible stuff I was doing to my body. There were definitely plus sides to my career that happened because of those places. And I think that's a really British thing as well. It's like, yeah, you meet in the pub, you get to know each other in the pub, like something happened, you meet a friend in the pub, and you meet friends of friends in the pub, and stuff escalates. So I think that's a very British thing.
Totally. It's a very sociable place.
Yeah, and I really like that. And yeah, I've got a lot to thank for those places.
Sometimes it's a funny thing to talk about because you don't want to seem like you're sort of trying to weasel your way into something that you want to be doing. But, you know, if you want to play music, if you want to play in a band and you know those kinds of scenes or sounds or people, sometimes you get an inkling of where you want to hang out. Because sometimes you just want to be around it, right? If you're an actor or you know, a burgeoning young actor, you know, maybe some of those people want to be around working as runners on sets.
Yeah.
Just because you're around it, you're around the energy. going to the windmill a few times at being like 18 for me. It was like, oh, cool. This is, and I meet someone who ran, the people that ran Household Name Records, which was a big record label for me and my friends.
Yeah.
It was like, I'm not trying to get anything out of you, but it's just cool to meet you. It's cool to be around it.
Yeah, and again, that's funny how that changes within London as well. Because for us, that was like going to the Macbeth in Hoxton and meeting like Keith, who does Bad Vibrations, and now flash forward 10 years later, Keith's releasing our album, and he's been our London promoter for the whole time. I remember we put on the first show at the Macbeth. Elliott, the guy who does all the Crows artwork, who I run a business with, he was doing like a little art exhibition upstairs, and we would play downstairs, and we like make a big thing out of it. And that was all like me and Keith for like a little bit. And now, yeah, you look flash forward almost like 8 years later, or I don't know how many years, 7-8 years later. Me and Elliott now are in a tattoo shop. Like, we're releasing our second album with Keith. It's like, yeah, and it's all come from like hanging out at the Macbeth. I had a friend who works at street food, and so I got a job for a company called The Bowler, who make meatballs, run by a guy called Jez Felwick, who is the sweetest man alive. He is the best fucking dude. And so I went for street food for a bit, but I kind of eased my way in by, he was doing these events. He would do like pop-ups in like Banks and Canary Wharf. So I'd turn to Canary Wharf like 8 a.m. and be like, and you have to go through like proper security checks, like get like airport security in, go into like fucking HP Morgan or whatever the fucking bank is, I can't remember, but go out to the canteen, and like they all like, or most of the employees that eat for free. It's just like a buffet, so they'd be like, they just come over and be like, what are you serving? I'm like, meatballs. And I'm like, okay, give me like all the meatballs. So I did that for a while, which is funny, and then that led on to doing stuff like more events for him, which is fun, like festivals and stuff. And then he opened like an actual brick and mortar place in Covent Garden, which was fun.
And presumably he's making money, because I quite often see those sort of pop-up places, and you're like, how do people, like, where's the margin on this?
Well, this is point. It's great when it. This is like and like now I worked in the street food for a long time. It's like I got to know everything and know everyone about it. But they always say it's like never open a brick and mortar place, because it's like that's when you get the proper overheads, and like it's really difficult you really see the true margins. So, but as like a food truck, if you've got a successful food truck, which doesn't actually take a lot, it's like as long as your fucking ingredients are fresh, as long as like it's well made food, as long as like good marketing, like you're fine, like you'll be flying. And yeah, bless him, like he opened the brick and mortar place in 7 Dials in Covent Garden, and which was really fun. But we did it for like a year, and then it just like the overheads was so much, like the rent was so high, like to staff it and like trying to do like breakfast and lunch and try and do dinner was just difficult. So he closed there, and then luckily a friend of his, Simon, who runs a burrito truck called Luado's, picked me up, and I worked there literally for about 5 or 6 years. That's been like until like very recently, until this year when I've opened the shop with Elliott, I was working there pretty much full time. And he's honestly like the sweetest, best man I've ever met in my life. He was so good. He was so understanding about crows. He'd give me all the time off I needed to do crows, give me all the work I needed when I really needed work. That was down by the Barbican on Whitecross Street. We'd start at 7 a.m, finish at 3 p.m, which was also sick because I'm one person, get all my afternoons off.
Yeah, great.
Yeah, paid well, great food. The market was such a nice place to work. It's like everyone down there like became family. So I was really fortunate with that because it was so nice, and I loved working there. And I miss it. It's like I was thinking, like you never think you're going to miss your part-time job or whatever. You'd be like, I miss those guys every day. I miss the food. I worked there for 5 or 6 years, and I would literally have a burrito every single morning. Every single morning. As soon as we were ready to go, as soon as like we were about to start serving, like we'd all have a quick burrito to eat before we go. Every day, without a doubt. I'm not sick, and that's it. And that's a testament to Simon's food, because it's good ingredients, it's good recipes, and that's it. It's like if it's good, if it's well made, then you can fucking eat it every day. If it's shit, like bad ingredients, then you're not gonna want to eat it every day, or you're gonna feel like shit when you eat it. But honestly, he's been there for 13 years, doing the same thing, almost like the same menu every single day. He's got like customers who've been going there for 13 years who still go there. Yeah, man, he's the best. Simon is one of the goats, man.
So, only here here for you is the tattoo shop that you started up with Elliott. How did that start?
Yeah, so it was the shop that Elliott apprenticed at. It was called the Lacemaker Sweatshop under a woman called Delphine Noise Toy. And she was always planning to move to France anyway, quite like in the next couple of years. But the pandemic obviously just sped that up, and she was like, I'm ready to go. And she offered it to Elliott, said, do you want to take over the shop? Like, it's there if you want it. I'd rather you keep it. And like, that's kind of like, that's the tradition in tattooing, is like the mentor will pass it down to the apprentice, like same with like a lot of things. But Elliott wasn't ready to do that. So he asked me if I wanted to come on. If I came on as like co-owner and manager, then he would do it. And I literally said yes, like immediately. I think I was like, can I think about it? And I called him back like 10 minutes later and I said, yeah, let's do it.
What was that? Was that like a stressful decision? I mean, clearly not if you took it quickly, but I mean, was and is there a kind of a weight and expectation? And I mean, this is going to be the first time. This is the first time you're running a business, right?
Yeah. I mean, yeah, it was terrifying. I was like, can I do this? I was like, I'm sure I can do it. Like, it's not like a massive studio. It's like but it's big enough for it to have been like a worry for me. And then I kind of thought about it. I was like, to be honest, I've been working all these businesses the whole time I've been an adult. Like, and most of them, especially the street food side of it, are small independent businesses. And I was like, you know what? I think I can probably blag it enough and get enough advice from the people that I trust and know and love, who run all their small businesses successfully, to be like, yeah, I probably can do this. So yeah, I thought about it literally 10 minutes. I rang back. I was like, yeah, let's do it. And then I just kind of threw myself into it, like kind of researching what I needed to do, what happens, what was the next steps for doing everything. And honestly, it all came like really naturally, and like it's been great. Like I get to go to work with my best friend every day in a place that I've set up and love, and I don't have to work for anyone else. That is a bit of a stress. Like obviously with that, it's like you don't have like as solid a paycheck, or I don't get to like get holiday pay at the moment or anything like that. You know, I'm starting a business now, still like in the first year. So yeah, I've got there are these like perks you forget when you work for someone else that you can just take and like you wash your hands of it. But then
I think sometimes at those jobs when you're working for someone else, if you're having a kind of bad day or whatever like that, you can kind of be like, oh fuck it, it's not you know, you can do your job, you know, you do your role, but you're like, you know, you leave it at the door.
No, when it's your business, you're like, oh fuck, it's like, yeah, it's my business, I've got to work constantly. Like, yeah, I think I took like a week off last year in 1 week. Both of us did. Me and Elliot had like a week off each, and I was like, oh yeah, normally I'd take like at least a couple of weeks off, like maybe a month.
Do you see it as like, does that and crows push against each other, or do they work together? Well,
I don't know. We'll see that this year. I think last year obviously was a bit quieter, but me and Elliot have always been super open. Like that's what we both are, and it's part of the identity of the shop as well, is crows as well as Elliot. So it's like they do work together. It's the when I'm going to be on tour, Elliot's going to have to be there every day, or when Elliot's guesting in another country, I'm going to have to be here. That's the only like dynamic that we're going to have to figure out. We're going to do that this year. Like our tour starts in April, and then Elliot's guesting in September. But I mean, Elliot's in Paris right now. He's guesting in Paris right now, so I'm running the shop every day. And it's fine. Like, and again, we've always said it's like we're both doing what we love in a place that we love, and we'll make it work no matter what. Especially this year, we're going to do like parties. We're going to do four parties here, like a spring party, summer party, autumn party, winter party, where we'll do a flash day at the shop, and then we'll move everyone to a gig. The first one's May 7th. We're going to do a Shackwell. So we'll do like a gig in the daytime, flash day in the daytime, and then gig party in the nighttime. And we're like, yeah, we want to do that because like that's literally what we love doing. It's like, let's fuse music and tattooing more together now.
To be able to do something more than just play music, to be able to talk about and live something that's more than just the songs and the records and the tours. That's marketing, you know. But that's real. But that's real life. It's real life. Something where can plug into. You know,
and we get so many customers who are just Crows fans. Like they come because they love Elliott's artwork, they love Crows, and they find out about the shop and want to get tattooed. It's like it's all a big whirlpool of people just loving like what we do and loving everything that is happening around us in the moment, and I love that. It's like I'm probably when we launch the album, we're probably gonna do a flash day at the shop, which is like flash from the gatefold of the album, where you can come and get towed if you want something from like that. And it's like it just gives us like loads of opportunities to do like all this extra stuff that like it's just a testament to mine and Elliott's friendship and his involvement in Crows. He is basically like the fifth Crow. He is like part of the band. He always has been.
Big up Elliott.
Yeah, it's good, man. It's like, yeah, and it's terrifying to be my own boss. I never thought I would be my own boss. I never thought that I would be like a small business owner, anything. I always kind of thought I would always work for other people. But
I think working for other people, I wonder if it's like a lot, people who make records and then become producers themselves. Being in that studio environment, you kind of you glean what people are doing with the compressors and hardware. I wonder if that's the same with working for small businesses like you've done, making burritos, working in different kind of levels of working environments, independent places, more importantly, where you've learned how to run a business, right?
Yeah, totally. And I say it like Simon, who runs Dwellers, he was so helpful to me the whole time. He basically walked me through everything I needed to do with like setting up the company and like what I needed to do, like what my accountant needs, how to like keep my books even, like sometimes like, and again, like tattooing is quite different to making burritos, but essentially on the business side of it, it's not actually that different. So it's quite funny. Right. Like I learned how to run a tattoo shop by running a burrito shop kind of thing. Just like on the business side of stuff, the day to day is a lot different. But
you got to wrap them up both once they're done, right?
Yes, very good.
James, thanks so much for being up for this. I'm really excited about the record. It sounds wicked.
Thank you, man. Thank you. That's so much fun. I enjoyed that.
So there he was, James Cox of Crows. Their new album, Beware Believers, is out on the 1st of April. See you next Tuesday. That's not an acronym. With an episode with King Hannah. See you then. I've been working all day for me mate on the side, running around like a blue-ass fly. I've been working all day for me mate. Every bleeding minute I've been on the go, up and down the ladder like a fiddler's elbow. I've been working all day for me mate. This is a Mighty Moon Media podcast.